Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Today we're going to continue to explore who God is and how that enriches our lives as we come to know Him better. There's a wonderful story in the New Testament of the disciples who encounter some people who are not part of Jesus' group, and they are casting out demons in His name and so on. And the disciples come to Jesus and they say, should we castigate them? Should we stand against them? Should we tell them to stop it? And Jesus' response is, if they're not against us, they're for us. Jesus stood for the others, for those who are not part of His inner circle, His own group. God is the God who isn't just for us, but He's also for those who are not part of us. He does not stand against them. He stands for them. Let's just explore that a little bit together today. It's so easy for us to sort of get into our own little group, whether it be, our racial groups or our belief groups or our social status groups or whatever it may be, people who are kind of like us, and believe that God most smiles on us. Now then we'll say in humility, well, of course not. He loves everybody. But I'm not sure we really believe sometimes that He is for those who are in opposition to Him, those who even stand against Him. Jesus said, love your enemies, pray for those who curse you and spitefully use you, and forgive your enemies and love your enemies. That's a description of who God is. That's a description of His Father and how He looks on those who are not part of our little groups. And, sometimes we want to feel that God is more for us if we get things more right. Does that make sense at all? Sometimes we seem to feel what God values most is us getting everything right, our beliefs right, our practices right, the way we do worship right, the way that we live right. And that as the more right we get all of that, the more God will smile on us, the more God will approve us perhaps and even bless us. And it can be very upsetting when all of a sudden God blesses those who don't get it as right as us. And it can be confusing if we don't understand that our God is a God who is for everybody. He is for everybody. He will stand with everybody and anybody. And that His approval of us is not based on our getting things right, but it's based on who He is. Oh, this is good news. His approval of us, His relationship with us, His blessing and favor on our lives is based on who He is, not on how we behave or who we are. Also, often in the Old Testament, the Israelites, they kind of felt like, well, we're God's people, we're His favorites, and they would get upset when He'd bless other nations and include other nations in His plans. The quintessential story here is Jonah, and he goes to Nineveh, a Gentile pagan people, and God shows them mercy. And Jonah gets all bent out of shape because God is for the Ninevites. God intervenes on their behalf and brings grace and mercy to these people. A wonderful reminder that our God is a God who is for even those who are not with us or like us. And, it's fairly easy, I think, to say, yeah, I believe that's true. But it's a little harder, when we have our belief system as an X denomination, we're charismatics or we're Baptists or we're Pentecostals or we're Catholic or we're Orthodox or whatever. And then we see everybody else as being outside God's favor, outside His ideal for them. And yeah, that may be, and we may be outside of His ideal. I'm sure we are. I've never seen a perfect church or a perfect pastor or a perfect parishioner yet. we're all outsiders in some sense, and that's who our God is, though. He's for us. In Romans chapter 5, it talks about even while we were yet sinners, even while we were yet against him, he was for us. That's who God is. How does that affect us? Well, I think, one thing, it takes away the fear that I'm an outsider. It takes away the fear that I've missed being in the inner circle of God's group. I'm no longer driven to get everything perfect and right. I am passionate about getting to know him more and to walk in harmony with who he is. But it's not a drivenness that feels like if I don't, I'm going to be on the outside. God is He draws us all into himself and includes us in him. He is the God who is for us and for our even enemies. He's even for our enemies. Wow. We see in the Psalms David often writing and going, God, destroy my enemies. Destroy those that aren't in the inner circle, that aren't for you. God doesn't do that. God doesn't do that. In fact, in Christ, God saves them. God said, I want you to know how much I am for them. I'm going to send my son. God so loved the world. Not God so loved the Baptists, or God so loved the Charismatics, or God so loved the whatever, or God so loved the inner circle that trust him. God loved the world. He's for everybody. The good news is I don't have to be so driven to get it right. The second good news is I don't have to weed out and denounce everybody who I think is not living up. The disciples, shall we bring fire down upon them? The Samaritans or whatever. God said, no, leave them alone. I'm for them. I'm a God who wants to rescue and deliver and heal and include them. So, that's good news. We can declare to people. That's how we can interact with people. We can interact with them like God interacts with them. We're for them. We're for them. Wow, I just read that this week. I think it's in the Message, and I think it's in Ephesians. Let me stop and see if I can find that. Yes, here it is. It's in Philippians chapter 4, verse 5. Listen to this. Celebrate God all day, every day. I mean, revel in him. Make it as clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side. Wow. Working with them, not against them. Make it clear to everyone you meet that you're on their side. See, that's what God has done for every last human being on earth, and what he wants us to communicate to them. We're on your side. He's on your side. He's not against you. The God who is for us and others. Something to think about today, and pray about, and meditate on, and live out. God bless. We'll talk again tomorrow.